Good morning, everyone. Today's topic is mapping at the speed of conversation. So we'll do a quick demo of all the tips and tricks you can use to look like a superhero in front of the participants in your workshop. So that they don't realize, the whole point is that they don't realize that you're actually capturing the processes. What we want is people have the impression they are just actually talking, they are describing their processes, they are telling their little anecdotes and stories that are very important to for you as a business analyst to understand them, while you're actually mapping the process and capturing it in a digital format, which has all sorts of benefits for the future as we know it. Mapping at the speed of conversation has really been the main guiding principles behind the SCORE software since its inception. We were doing these workshops, we were doing all the things, and we thought, what if we had a tool that was really getting out of the way and people would almost see like magically their process appear on the screen while they were talking. So no interruptions by having to move the lines, having to place it in the right swim lanes, having to create a new swim lanes because we didn't think about one in the first place. So let's forget all this thing. Let's focus on a tool that can be used while people talking, something appears on the screen. So that's why, since we created the software, there's quite a lot of keyboard shortcuts. And the software will also guide you. So I will show them all these keyboard shortcuts, but they are at the bottom. So at the bottom here in the footer, you find some of them. And then in the help menu, in the top right corner, you have a list of all of them, all the keyboard shortcuts that we have. Plus, when you're expanding one of these menus here, when you have on the right-hand side, this is the keyboard shortcuts that you can use to activate this functionality. So mapping at the speed of conversation is very important to us. We think it's what makes SCORE quite unique in this range of products. And I will show you now. So first thing, when I'm mapping with the keyboards, I don't need the left panel. So I can hide the left panel clicking on the little arrow here, and I have more real estate for my process map, which is always nice to have. So I've mapped a quick processes already, so we can get started. But let's create a couple of boxes. So if I want to add what box, I can press the W key, and I'm clicking where I want my box to be included. So W plus click creates a what box, and Y plus click creates a Y box. Okay. And N plus click create a note box. All right, so it's all fairly logical, I hope, and they are quite easy to remember. But again, the footer is dynamically adapting to my context and showing me what kind of shortcuts are available to me. If I'm on, it's very actually having to create a Y box in isolation is quite rare. Usually I want to create a Y box following an activity, a what box that I have, I want to create the next what box. So I can just press the space key. So if I'm selecting a box and I press the space bar, I can very quickly create my alternation of what box and Y boxes. And if I'm pressing space again, so here I already have a Y box, it will create another one. It will make it a little bit lower, so I can use my mouse to actually reposition it. Okay, and then on my second path, I can keep going, pressing the space bar. Now, let's say without using my mouse, again, my mouse cursor stays in the middle of the screen. Let's say I want to make edits to another box. So I can actually navigate through these boxes using the tab. So, you know, when you're using forms and many things online, tab helps to navigate through fields and through objects. So here, tab, and to go backwards, it's shift and tab. All right, so tab, shift, and tab. So I can navigate through my path. And you see here, as long as I keep pressing, it will rotate through all the options that I have. When I give it a little moment of break, it will continue horizontally. So I do it again. As long as I'm typing quite quickly, it will just rotate, and I can pick which branch I want. I give it 1 second pause, and then I can continue navigating to the next boxes. So that's very useful to select boxes. If I type the enter key, like in Excel, I'm starting editing. So start typing text. tab, I can add more resources. I can do a lot of things with the keyboard here. So tab, again, using the same logic of using the tab key that works in the many softwares. Tab to go to the next field. I can say this is my my role, and then tab to go to the next field, my other role. And when I'm happy, I'm just pressing tab, and it recognizes when there's nothing else to tab, it will just validate the box. So I've done all this editing, and I can go to the next box. I'm doing all this editing without even moving my hands off the keyboard. So I'm doing all that just by having my hands on the keyboard, using the tab key, enter key. It requires a bit of practice at the beginning if you're not familiar with using tabs, but it comes very quickly. So this is about just the basic editing. Now in Score, for doing text formatting, we are actually using a little notation that we call markdown. So again, you can make texts in bold or italics again without using your mouse. So if you look at the footer, here you see that a double star will make something look bold, a single star will make something italic. So here I'm surrounding my my text with 2 double stars, and enter to validate that this text will appear in bold. So I can even do some basic formatting of my text without the mouse, which is quite powerful. Yeah, and then we also use Markdown for all sorts of notations. So we have sessions dedicated to it. So when I'm creating all the boxes using the space bar, they are very well aligned, but we know what it is in real life. You will very often have to realign boxes to do a little bit of tidying up so that your process looks good. And again, here in the software, we wanted something that helps me keeping my process tidy as the people speak. So how it happens in a workshop, typically, people will talk about the processes, and then there will be a sort of an anecdote or a little explanation. And you as a process mapper, people are off the screen or they're listening to someone else, you can quickly select the boxes and you press the T key, like top, and it will align all the boxes to the top. And then here I see I have my alignment between my alternation of what box and Y boxes is, the spaces in between are not regular. So I can click H like horizontal, and it will just space out evenly all the things. So let me do that again. I have a messy process. And while people listen to someone else talking, explaining their little story or their little constraints around the process, you do T and you do H, so tops and horizontal, and your process looks already better into keyboard keys. So where are the things? So we are trying to name the keyboard's shortcuts in the most obvious way. So the one we use the most have a keyboard shortcuts, but you have a couple of more options in the arrange menu. So the one I've used just now were T, so to align the tops, which is the one I personally use all the time. And then I used H, which space out horizontally. If we wanted to align this box and this box together, I can select the 2 boxes and I press C like centers, and there will be a line on the vertical axis. So I think centers is, for us, is the vertical axis, and middles is the horizontal axis if you want to align boxes that are bigger. I recommend doing tops because you may have boxes that are with a longer text. So here, if I'm doing an aligning to the middle, the look and feel will be a little bit off. It doesn't look right to me. If I'm aligning the top of the boxes, to me, it looks very much like I want. So the alignment is very powerful. So on top of the guides, the guides, they are in all softwares now, they are very natural to use, but sometimes a quick T and H to make a process look beautiful is very good. If you're just a quick tips, advanced tips, because that's where we are as well. If I'm selecting this box first, and then now, so I have my command on the Mac, it's command, on the PC, it's control. So I'm selecting these 3 boxes. And now if I do T, to which box it will align. So it will actually align to this one because I selected first. So when you select box individually, the first one you select is actually, that's the one we use as a reference. Okay, so now if I'm doing T, it goes to the top one. If I'm selecting them, so a little bit of an advanced thing to understand the algorithm, but it's interesting. If I'm selecting them all at once, it will take the first one. It takes the top one. So if I'm selecting them all at once, it will align to the one that is the highest. Actually, good to know. If you really want to say, all right, I don't want to align to the highest, I want to align to this box in particular, you need to select them manually in the order, and then it remembers the first one you select is the reference. And so yeah, aligning is very, very good to make a process look good instantly, and we find it very, very powerful. So here again, I want to align to this one, so I'm selecting this one first, and then T. So I do it again. I select this box first, that's my first selection. Then I do a square around this, pressing T, it aligns to the one on the left. Now, there's an additional one I wanted to show you when I'm actually going into a drill down. So for the sake of the exercise, let's make another input to start of workshop or received feedback from user. So I'm just adding a second input to this process, and I'm going into a drill down. So I click here, create a new details view. Here I am. And what's good when we're starting a blank process is to already have the scope. So what we call the scope is the name of the current diagram, so map at the speed of conversation, and having the initial inputs and outputs. And I can, pressing the I key, the letter I, and click, it will insert automatically all the inputs from the level above. And to insert the outputs, guess what? It's an O, and click. O will insert the outputs. So I can very easily pull down the content of all the Y boxes that were inputs to my box and all the Y boxes that were outputs to my box. Some people really like having the very, very good integrity. Like if you have a Y box here, it should be exactly the same in the drill down. I'm not so dogmatic because here we are in a lower level of details, and start of workshop may not be as relevant to a lower level of details than to the top level. So very often I'm refining it. We could say workshop ready to start. Okay, that's maybe a bit more relevant to my level of details. So I know that some people really want to have a perfect integrity between all the hierarchy of processes. I am not so keen on that. I don't think it really serves a purpose. And you've seen here that I've just scaffolded a couple of boxes on my process just by pressing space. Again, sometimes it's good to have a couple of boxes ready. It simplifies the conversation. They're asking the question. So when someone says, all right, actually, we need to organize a coffee break. Let's say it's reaching 10 o'clock and I need my coffee. So organize coffee break. Sometimes it's good to have, sometimes it's good to have a couple of placeholders. It's really show people that there is something that needs to be filled on this screen. It's just not, the work is not finished. And once it's done, you can delete the box. Again, deleting the box, there's a keyboard shortcut. For that, I have the bin icon, but if I press one of the delete key of your keyboards, you may have the backspace or the delete key. Both works to actually delete the boxes. The last thing I wanted to show you is around when we are doing little construction with the note boxes. So sometimes. And we see some people highlighting, and I said that, but I do that all the time personally, highlighting sort of these boxes are going together. So I want to put a little bit of a frame around it, so sort of a grouping, making visually showing that there is something going on in this group of box. This is something I do all the time. Here, these two things. First, I just want the color. I don't want the text. So that's a little tip here. If your box doesn't have a text, it has this default placeholder. To get rid of this placeholder, I just have to put a couple of space. Oh, no, I think it's exactly one space. Yeah, sorry, exactly one space. So if I put exactly one space in my text, it will actually just show the space and it will not show the placeholder. This works everywhere. So if I want to have a white box that looks empty, I can just do exactly one space in each field and the placeholder text will disappear. Now here I want this yellowish background on these two boxes for whatever reason, but here my thing is on top. So a bit like PowerPoint, you have something called bring to front and send to back that you recognize from PowerPoint. You can do the same with the keyboard shortcuts. If I'm doing B, it will send the thing to back. Now this box, the problem is that it's nice to have it in the background, but sometimes I actually don't want it to be really clickable and react. I just liked it to be locked. And this is again something we can do here. So in the style menu, I have a locked box. And as you see on the right-hand side of the menu, there is a keyboard shortcut for it, which I will use. That's the purpose of today. So Control or Command L if you're on a Mac. Control L, Command L locks the box. So now the box doesn't really react when I hover over. Actually, it does after 1 second of hover, it shows the little unlock button very discreetly. But the benefit is here, and even if I'm doing a selection square, the yellow box will not be selected. So it helps me creating a little backdrop to whatever area of my process without coming into ways. I see some people doing like big, either it's really highlighting a couple of boxes, saying, all right, this is the new part of the process you need to pay attention to, or having phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, having a little background that helps making a visual separation, or sometimes doing a swim lane-like view to really highlight that the work is going from one way to another. Creating this little color backdrop is quite nice. And that's the gist of it. So to summarize in a couple of sentences, the most useful shortcuts are always in the footer here at the really very bottom of your screen. You have the one that you need. Once we try to make them as logical as needed, the one I'm using the most personally are W to insert a white box, and usually I'm using the space bar to add the additional white boxes following it. And so that's the one I'm using to create content. And what I'm using all the time to align and make my process pretty is the top and H. So top align tops with the T key and H to space out horizontally with the H key. And yes, I think I've shown you all. Any questions, any feedback, any things, any additional keyboard shortcuts you were missing, or some that were confusing and you got lost?